After my uncle died in a car accident, my cousin was traumatized and came to my house to recover. She fell in love with my boyfriend. Everyone told me to let her have him. Even my boyfriend said, "Tina, she's been through so much. Why are you getting mad at her?" Later, I also ended up in a car accident. As I was being resuscitated, my cousin cried in my boyfriend's arms, "She has so many people who care about her if she dies. But if I live, no one cares." I died in the operating room. My cousin took my spot in the college and married my boyfriend. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the time my cousin had just come to stay with us. Bitch. You killed my dad, and now you want to steal my boyfriend too? As soon as I opened my eyes, I felt a strong force pushing me against the wall. Molly had a pair of scissors in her hand, ready to slash my face. Out of instinct, I pushed back. Molly stumbled backward, the scissors flew out of her hand, and she fell down the stairs. Her hand got scratched, blood dripping down. Molly sat on the ground crying. Our classmates stopped and looked curiously. "Tina, what are you doing?" It was my boyfriend Jack who rushed over. He helped Molly up. "Are you okay?" Following Jack was my best friend Tiffany. She saw what Jack did and got really angry. "Jack, do you have eyes?" Molly was the one with the scissors, trying to cut Tina's face. "Who's your girlfriend?" "If Molly can't tell, can't you?" Maybe Tiffany spoke too loudly. Molly seemed scared. She curled up in Jack's arms and cried even louder. Jack frowned. "Tiffany, you know Molly has severe psychological issues after her dad's sudden death. Why are you making it worse? Have some sympathy." Feeling protected, Molly tightly clutched Jack's sleeve and stubbornly repeated, "You are my boyfriend." Jack patted Molly's head to comfort her. Molly was satisfied. She glared at me and smugly said, "If I see you talking to Jack again, I won't go easy on you." Jack sighed, gave me an apologetic look, and then picked Molly up. "You're hurt, let's go to the hospital." This scene was so familiar. In my last life, I stood there and watched Jack leave with Molly. Back then, I was just as angry as Tiffany is now, but helpless. After all, Molly was truly pitiable. My aunt died giving birth to her. She was raised by her dad, who then died in a car accident her senior year. So Molly was greatly affected mentally and started having episodes. To take care of her, my mom brought her to our home. At first, I gave Molly everything she wanted, my room, my clothes. I agreed to everything. Until Jack visited my home one day. He was the most popular guy at our school and the young master of the J group. Molly fell in love with him at first sight. "Sis, give Jack to me." I refused Molly, but after that, as soon as Jack was mentioned, she'd go crazy. She started believing Jack was her boyfriend, and I was just a mistress trying to steal him. Whenever she saw Jack dating me, she'd cry hysterically, even cut herself. Then one rainy night, when Jack and I were out watching a movie, she called me frantically, saying she was kidnapped. In my rush, I got into a car accident. While being resuscitated, my soul floated outside the operating room. Molly was crying in Jack's arms. I was just joking, didn't think she'd take it seriously. If Tina dies, lots of people will remember her. But I'm just suffering alive. No one cares about me. Jack hugged her tightly. "Who said no one cares? You have me." After my death, Molly's mental state seemed to improve. She was adopted by my parents, took my college spot, and went to the best university with Jack. One night, she prayed at the window. "Dad, Tina, thank you for everything. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even get into college, let alone have today." At that moment, it dawned on me. Molly never had any illness. It was all a carefully planned scheme. A clear voice said beside me, "Do you want to do it all over again?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. So when I opened my eyes again, it was the day Molly transferred to our school. Seeing Jack about to leave with Molly, I strode up and spoke coldly, "Jack, let's break up." Jack's expression changed instantly. He frowned. "Tina, don't be impulsive. I'm serious." I said calmly, "You want to take care of Molly, then do it well. We're done. Without caring about Jack calling my name, I turned and left. After school, I called Tiffany to a coffee shop. Does your dad know anyone in the traffic department? I want to find out the truth about my uncle's car accident. My uncle was an experienced truck driver, everything was normal that day, yet he crashed into the bridge. Tiffany shivered after hearing me. You think his death wasn't just an accident? I stayed silent. My uncle was a good man, not very capable, but very proud. He always politely declined our help. After his death, Molly moved into our big house, lived a life with drivers and maids for now. It's just suspicion, but thinking of Molly's expression when she prayed in the last life, I can't help but think the worst. Tiffany assured me she'll handle it. As she left, my phone rang. It was Jack. Tina, where are you? Can we talk? Reluctant to see Jack, he still found the coffee shop with familiarity. Tina, don't be mad. He brought my favorite pistachio puffs, sitting beside me. You know I only love you. In my previous life, would have softened upon hearing such words. But now, I just gave a cold smile, holding Molly in your arms and loving me, such multitasking, that's so like you. Jack looked a bit upset. I was just acting with Molly to calm her down. She's your cousin, seeing her sick like this, don't you want to do something? She's got doctors, why does she need me to do anything? I waved my hand dismissively. Enough, Jack. Breaking up is good for both of us. I've already called the hotel and cancelled the engagement arrangements. Jack was stunned, staring at me in disbelief. Are you serious? He then angrily glared at me. Tina, an engagement is a very serious matter. You're being childish, there's no need to joke about it. No wonder Jack didn't believe it. After all, I had always loved him so much and was wholeheartedly planning a future with him, even wanting to go to the same university. But I don't want that anymore. For the last time, I'm not joking, nor being childish, I said calmly, looking straight at him. Breaking up is that simple. Jack growled under his breath, I don't agree. Before he could finish, someone rushed into the cafe. Molly grabbed the coffee from the table and, in a flash, threw it at me. Bitch! She screamed. Before I could respond, she swayed and collapsed into Jack's arms. Jack, protecting Molly with one hand, grabbed me with the other to stop me from leaving, sweat pouring down his face. Amidst the chaos, I glanced at the coffee shop's counter. The owner quietly gave me an okay gesture, a slight smile appearing on my lips. The owner is a friend of mine. I had signaled him to turn on the camera. Molly's entire outburst was recorded. This was my backup plan. Either prison or a mental hospital, she's going to one of them. The day's farce ended with Jack taking Molly to the hospital. I went home alone to an empty house. Obviously, my parents got the call and went to the hospital to see Molly too. I sat in the unlit living room, thinking quietly for a while. Actually, my parents love me a lot, but they are very strict, always holding me to the highest standards. When I used to argue with other kids, they always made me apologize first. And now, with everyone seeing Molly as the weaker party, any conflict between us would lead them to side with her more. So, when they went to the hospital, Molly likely painted herself as the victim again, probably spilling more dirt on me. Sure enough, more than an hour later, my parents brought Molly home. Mom was supporting the weak-looking Molly while Dad's face was icy. Tina, come here, Dad called me. I saw clearly that behind him, Molly, pretending to be frail in Mom's arms, had a barely perceptible smirk on her lips. You provoked Molly again? Dad's tone was angry. You know she's sick, yet you publicly embarrassed her. Tina, when did you become someone so lacking in empathy? Look at that, Molly had twisted things again. She had thrown coffee at me, but now it was me embarrassing her. In my previous life, would have desperately defended myself, trying to prove I hadn't done anything wrong. But now, I knew that wouldn't work. What works is acting crazy with Molly. It's all about playing the game. If she can fake being sick, so can I. Lowering my head, I said in a pained voice, I'm sorry, Dad. I know I've disappointed you. Then, I took out a thick envelope and emptied it. Inside were a psychologist's diagnosis and a filled-out school leave application. My parents' expressions changed sharply, and even Molly sat up straight. My eyes were red, and I helplessly pinched my arm. I've been unable to control my emotions lately and can't focus on my studies. If this continues, I think I might end up harming myself. My parents' energy is limited. They can't take care of both Molly and me at the same time. As the elder sister, I should give way to her, so she can take this year's college entrance exam. I'll take a year off. The moment I finished speaking, Mom was the first to panic. That won't do. Dad, a bit more composed, pulled Mom aside to their room. They spoke in hushed tones, but snippets of their conversation came through. Mom's voice was tearful. It's my fault. I only thought about how Molly needed care and brought her home, but I didn't realize it would affect Tina. Dad comforted her. Don't blame yourself now. The important thing is to find the right solution. In the living room, Molly glared at me hatefully. She grabbed the diagnosis I had placed on the table. Tina, when did you see a psychologist? This has to be fake. I smirked and whispered, you haven't even been to a psychiatrist. You're just making it up. At least I have a fake diagnosis. The next second, my parents came out of the room. I immediately put on a helpless expression. Please, don't blame me anymore. I'm willing to give up Jack and my parents to you. If that's not enough, I'm willing to disappear from this world forever. Tina. Don't say that. Mom rushed over and grabbed my hand tightly. You mustn't think that way. Dad approached Molly gently. We've discussed it. We have another house on the south side of town, closer to the school. Molly, why don't you move there? We'll hire a caregiver for you. Molly's eyes widened. Uncle, are you abandoning me? She immediately began to act out. Uncle, please, you're my only family. Don't leave me. My parents comforted her with exceptionally gentle but firm voices. I sobbed softly on the side, but inside, I was sneering. In my previous life, my parents were devastated after I died in a car accident. Molly then offered to be their daughter and take care of them, and they unwittingly accepted. But right now, I'm still alive. People always favor their own flesh and blood. My parents wouldn't just watch me get depressed and commit suicide because of Molly. So, Molly was sent away from my house. She went around school saying that I had kicked her out. My classmates all called me a vicious sister, treating an orphaned girl so harshly. I couldn't be bothered to respond. The college entrance exam was the real deal. These rumors didn't matter because after graduation, most people wouldn't see each other again. Jack came up to me too. Molly cried to me all night last night. Did you really have to treat her like that? I buried my head in my geometry problems, not even looking up. Jack, we've broken up. You have no right to criticize me. Never agreed to break up. Jack said firmly. Our parents were involved in our engagement. Why do you think one word from you ends it? That's interesting. I put down my pen, lifted my head, and smirked. You're saying you're still my boyfriend? If you're my boyfriend, how do you explain why Molly was crying to you all night? Middle of the night, just the two of you. Who's really out of line here? Jack was getting frustrated. I only feel sorry for Molly. She's your cousin and my classmate. I just smiled and said nothing. I didn't want to argue with Jack any longer. Arguing with scumbags just drags you down. I needed to focus on tangible benefits. Jack, though, was like a chewed-up piece of gum, sticking to me and wouldn't let go. The school arranged for alumni from different universities to come back for a talk. The top 30 students in our grade were to attend. Jack just happened to sit next to me. Before the meeting, he stopped me, looking hesitant. There's something I need to ask you. Then don't ask, I said, trying to get past him, but he blocked me. Jack clenched his teeth and spoke up. Can you give up your guaranteed spot for Molly? No, I replied, barely lifting an eyelid, trying to shake him off. Jack got anxious, gripping my wrist tightly and pulling me to the side of the hallway. Tina, listen to me. You're the only one who can save Molly right now. Under my scrutinizing gaze, Jack stammered through the story. Molly had fake attempted suicide in a bathtub, then called Jack. Jack broke in just in time to save her before she lost consciousness. After that dramatic episode, Molly tearfully told Jack that she would die if she couldn't go to the same school as him. Everyone knew both Jack and I had already gotten guaranteed spots. Molly's scores were about 400 points below getting into that school. That's great, Jack, I nodded. Since Molly wants to go to the same school with you so badly, you really want to make it happen. So, how about? Under Jack's hopeful gaze, I smiled at him. You tutor her. There's only a month left until the college entrance exam. Maybe heaven will be moved by your kindness and make a miracle happen. I turned around to leave, but Jack, furious, stepped in front of me again. Tina, do you even hear yourself? Molly's in no condition to take the exam. If she doesn't want to take the exam but wants to go to the best university, why should anyone study? Everyone should just learn how to play the victim. I rolled my eyes. Please, move. I have to listen to this lecture. I finally broke free from Jack and walked swiftly forward. Behind me, Jack said darkly, Tina, don't think I don't know. You caused her dad's death. That statement was so shocking I stopped in my tracks and turned around, stunned. Molly told me. You said you wanted chicken soup that day. Her dad went to get it for you even though he was exhausted from driving. He had an accident due to fatigue. Maybe my face was too pale because Jack softened his tone. Of course, Tina, I know you didn't mean it but it happened, and Molly's like this because of it. You owe her. I said nothing. Jack stepped closer, trying to hug me. Tina, I know you don't believe me, but I only feel pity for Molly. She's your sister. I see her as a sister too. But in my heart, the one I love has always been you. Before Jack could finish, a cold voice interrupted. You've been blocking the way for almost 10 minutes. When are you moving? Jack and I turned together. A girl in a white shirt stood not far away, with gold-rimmed glasses hanging on her chest, hands in pockets, looking indifferent. I recognized her. She was one of the speakers for this lecture, Senior Victoria. For some reason, hearing her voice made me freeze. When I had a chance for rebirth, a voice had asked me, do you want another chance? That voice was exactly like Victoria's. You're really annoying. The girl's almost fed up with you, and you're still pestering her. A tall guy walked up with a laid-back attitude behind Victoria. He had a face that didn't give away his age, with both mature contours and youthful clarity. A name tag on his chest read, Alumni, Jason. In that moment, chaotic memories suddenly clicked together in my mind. A strong intuition told me I had seen these two before. Thanks to Victoria and Jason, Jack couldn't continue to harass me. Right after the lecture, I made my way through the crowd to reach Victoria. Victoria, can I have your contact info? I asked. Victoria studied me for a long time before smiling slightly. Aren't you guaranteed a spot at another school? I'm from the school next door. You should seek out your own alumni. I hesitated for a long time and finally asked, indirectly, have we met before? As soon as I spoke, Victoria's face changed. Following behind her, Jason's face also slightly changed. At school? Victoria asked, seemingly calm. I gathered my courage and shook my head. No, not at school. Where then? I didn't dare to be too direct with people coming and going around, so I said vaguely, by a river, with red lotus flowers on the other side. One of you was on a boat, and one at the bridge. Before I finished, both Victoria and Jason's expressions grew serious. You actually remember that, Victoria whispered. That probably means you have much more trouble ahead. She tore off a piece of sticky note, wrote down a number, and handed it to me. This is my Instagram. After Victoria and Jason left, I added that Instagram. The ID was weird. It was Retroverser. Before I could even say hi, an emoji was thrown my way, followed by a few lines that sent chills down my spine. A person reborn might not survive. It all depends on fate. Things look bad for you right now, you might die again. If you face danger, send a message to this Instagram. Holding my phone, my fingertips trembled a little. I'd avoided all the major pitfalls from my previous life. Could it be Molly has found new ways to kill me? I locked myself in my room, deeply thinking it over all night. I decided to change my strategy a bit. So, when Jack called me again, I didn't hang up like usual, I answered. Jack seemed surprised, then breathed a long sigh of relief. Tina, you finally stopped giving me the cold shoulder. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes and calmly asked, what's up? Friday's my birthday party, Jack said. Everyone from school will be there. Tina, you'll come to celebrate with me, right? Everyone from school will be there. I silently scoffed and asked, Molly too? Jack's voice got a bit strained. If you don't want her to, no, I didn't mean it that way. I'll be with you on your birthday. After hanging up, I smiled faintly. Molly's got some nerve. She gets sick for exams but seems perfectly fine for a party. No worries, I actually wanted to observe her a bit. So, on Friday night, I arrived at Jack's birthday party. The party was in a private club suite. Of course, Jack was the center of attention. Molly stood right beside him, clearly dressed up with light makeup and a Chanel suit. I squinted slightly. That suit was mine. I had planned to wear it tonight but couldn't find it in the closet. The maid said she hadn't seen it, so I went with something else. And now it's on Molly. Jack's birthday party had a business vibe, with people from the business world toasting to him. After they toasted, they'd look at Molly, who smiled and chatted with them. I've heard great things about Miss Tina. Meeting her in person, I see it's all true. Our company has always wanted to collaborate with Tina's father. If possible, we hope Miss Tina could put in a good word for us. This is a gift for your mother. Molly smiled, saying she'd pass along both the message and the gift, but before she could take the gift box, a hand reached out from the side and grabbed it. That hand was mine. Taking the gift box, I smiled and nodded in thanks. My mom loves this brand of cream. I'll thank you on her behalf. The guests were taken aback, looking me up and down, and hesitantly asked, You are Tina? I extended my hand confidently to shake theirs. The guests were confused. Then who is she? All eyes fell on Molly. Apparently, besides our schoolmates, others had assumed Molly was me, since I was the one engaged to Jack and should have been by his side at the party. Clearly, Molly was playing the part. Before Molly could introduce herself, I cut in, Uncle, you're here to celebrate Jack's birthday and wanted to leave a gift for Tina's family through me. Both goals achieved. Why worry about who others are? Molly's face turned pale immediately. The guest, being tactful and needing our family's favor, quickly agreed, Miss Tina is right. I apologize for the mistake. Miss Tina's poised and articulate, truly from a noble family. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Molly's eyes turning red with anger. She turned and ran out. She looked pitiable, and I saw Jack's expression grow concerned as he was about to follow her. I grabbed him, Fiancé, where are you going? Jack angrily pushed my hand away. Tina, was that necessary? Molly is family too. She was just helping with the gifts until you arrived. Why make things awkward in front of strangers? I sneered, sure, helping with gifts. What next? Standing by your side, cutting the cake with you, maybe even marrying you for me? Jack furrowed his brows. Tina, I always thought you were gracious and dignified. How did you turn out like this? With that, he left me and chased after Molly. Everyone stared at me, having just witnessed Jack abandoning his fiancée to pursue Molly. Molly must feel pretty triumphant right now. It's okay, let her be. I've got the clues I needed. That night, I got a text from Molly. There was a photo attached, Jack lying on a bed, clothes half off, eyes half closed. He's with you, but the one he loves is me. Tina, you've lost. I looked at my phone and let out a snort. Do you know how to really break someone's spirit? It's by kicking her down just when she thinks she's one step away from success. So, I opened Instagram and posted a tweet visible only to Jack. It was a photo of a huge bouquet of roses, with the caption, "Thanks for the flowers, I love them." After sending that tweet, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went to sleep. The next day was a weekend. When I woke up, I had dozens of missed calls, all from Jack. Opening Instagram, I saw Jack had sent me multiple messages. "Tina, who gave you the flowers? You're my fiancé, and you're getting cozy with another man. What would your parents think? How ridiculous." Jack always lacks self-reflection, strict with others but lenient with himself. In this regard, he and Molly are a perfect match. But finally, he's feeling the sting. This is my plan. No matter how many times I told Jack to cancel the engagement, he always thought I was just pouting, but when there's a chance I might fall for someone else, he starts to panic. When you're about to lose something, it suddenly becomes priceless. Sure enough, after his initial emotional outburst, Jack starts to try to reconcile. "I admit it. I admit leaving you alone at the birthday party was wrong, but there were reasons. You should understand. Tina, you'll never find someone who treats you better than I do." I didn't reply to those messages, wanting to cause Jack a bit more anxiety. That evening, Jack showed up at my house holding roses, waiting the whole time outside. He even kept asking the maid if any other guys had come to see me lately. I waited until the right moment to let him in. He had been waiting for over 2 hours. Normally, he would have stormed off by now, but this time, he looked relieved that I finally let him in. "You still can't let me go, right?" He handed me the roses. I felt cold inside but smiled. Of course Jack, thrilled at getting me back, started going over every detail of the engagement ceremony with me. To combat the supposed rival, Jack insisted I take a photo of the roses he gave me and our rings and post it on Twitter. I acted reluctant. "Everyone will know at the engagement party." The more I resisted, the more adamant Jack became. "Not everyone will attend. You have to post it." So, looking like I was forced, I posted the announcement on Twitter. Perfect, everything was going as planned. "Dear Molly, what's going through your mind seeing this tweet? If you're planning to act, do it fast. After all, my well-laid plans are about to come to fruition." That evening, after Jack left, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Victoria. "We've been getting pretty close over coffee these days." She answered sleepily, "What's up?" "Nothing much, just wanted to let you know I borrowed your photo without telling you." Yep, the photo I used to mess with Jack was actually roses from Victoria's boyfriend Jason. Victoria and I were out dining, and Jason, who had upset Victoria while being out of town, sent the flowers to apologize. Victoria laughed at Jack's antics but then got serious. "You're provoking Molly. She might retaliate. Are you ready for that?" Victoria's concern wasn't misplaced. According to her, someone rebelling against fate like me isn't usually favored by good luck. But I just smiled. Absolutely. After ending the call with Victoria, I made another call to my best friend, Tiffany. "How's that thing I asked you to handle?" Half an hour later, I hung up with Tiffany. I opened Molly's chat, staring at her profile picture. In the selfie, Molly looked so innocent and sweet. But no one knew what kind of devil lurked beneath that facade. I had many ways to make that demon disappear quietly. But that wasn't enough. I wanted her exposed under the broad daylight, then crumble to dust, never to rise again. The next few days seemed peaceful and pleasant. Jack and I finalized the engagement details, and the invitations went out. Due to some company promotion, Jack's family even arranged for a live stream of the event to leverage our engagement's buzz for their new product. Technically, they were using our engagement for their company's benefit, which wasn't cool. My parents were annoyed, but I gently persuaded them. A live stream lets more people witness the engagement. It's a good thing. The more viewers, the happier I was. Finally, the day of the engagement arrived. 3 hours before the ceremony, I was done with my makeup and ready to change into my dress. I asked the maid, "Where's my dress?" She handed me a glass of water. "It's downstairs." "I'll go get it." "Miss, have some water first." 10 minutes later, the maid opened the door to a silent room. I lay on the floor, eyes closed, with a glass rolling beside me, half the water drunk, the other half spilled on the floor. The nanny walked up to me and tried to nudge me, calling my name. I didn't respond. I was clearly deeply unconscious. She sighed deeply, picked up her phone, and sent a message. Moments later, the bedroom door opened again, and Molly walked in. She kicked me with the tip of her shoe and said coldly, "Tina, you had this coming." Then Molly pulled an envelope full of money from her bag and handed it to the nanny. "Leave immediately. If anyone asks, you say you know nothing." The nanny looked nervous. "Miss Molly, what are you going to do?" "None of your business," Molly replied coldly. The nanny was still uneasy. "Don't do anything too extreme, or I'll get dragged into this too. Can you stop talking?" Molly snapped, "Your son is still waiting for you at the hospital." The nanny didn't dare say more and hurriedly left with the money. Now it was just me and Molly in the room. She calmly took off my jewelry and put it on herself. Then she went to the dressing room and found the dress I had prepared for the engagement. "Sis, you know, I've always been so jealous of you. We're both children of siblings, yet you live in a big mansion, and I live in the slums. You're about to marry into a rich family, while I have only a bunch of thugs around me. It's not fair," Molly said as she leisurely changed clothes. After getting dressed, she waited a bit. Soon, the sound of motorcycles roared from below, and a group of thug-like men appeared. Molly opened the door for them and gave simple instructions: "Stick to the plan, strip her, take photos, and send them to me when I message you." Molly left. The tall men surrounded me. After waiting for about 10 minutes, thinking it was time, the lead thug lit a cigarette and pointed at me. "Strip her." Immediately, a man approached. But the second he got close, I suddenly opened my eyes. I kicked him hard in the groin, making him scream in agony as I quickly retreated. The other men realized something was wrong before they could act. 2 figures emerged from behind the room divider. "I like your home's decor," Jason remarked. "How about we set up our place like this when we get married?" Victoria scoffed. "Who said I'd marry you? Can you guys stop flirting and help me first?" I cut in. Before I finished speaking, Jason moved. He darted to one of the men, grabbed his collar. The man roared, "Who the hell are you?" Jason narrowed his eyes, clearly displeased. "No respect for elders. I don't like that." He then lifted the man with one hand and slammed him against the cabinet. The other 2 men exchanged glances and pulled out switchblades, rushing at Jason from both sides. Jason sighed. Fighting was more fun back in the day. Modern kids have no skills. Saying that, he disarmed them with ease, kicking one into the bathroom and tossing the other out of the second-floor window. The last thug was petrified. He knew instinctively not to fight Jason. The kid looked anything but normal, so he set his sights on Victoria, who stood not far away. With her appearance as a typical honor student, white blouse, white skirt, she looked frail and easy to overpower. Jason's tone changed immediately. "Don't touch her." But it was too late. The thug rushed to Victoria and aimed his sharp blade at her neck. Calmly, Victoria glanced at him, then raised what she was holding, a brick. She smashed it on the thug's head. "I told you not to touch her," Jason sighed, hands in his pockets. "She has no sense of moderation." The thug fell to the floor, bleeding from all orifices. Victoria pulled out his phone and handed it to me. "Everything went just as you expected." I smiled. As she said, everything was part of my plan. Since Jack's birthday party, I had suspected our nanny was in cahoots with Molly. It was simple. Molly wore a Chanel skirt that day only I and the nanny knew about. I secretly observed the nanny after that, and sure enough, she was in touch with Molly. Once I confirmed my suspicions, I became wary of the nanny's actions, never consuming anything she gave me. I even managed to sneak her phone when she wasn't looking. Molly, provoked continuously by me, decided to act today. So, I contacted Victoria and Jason, asking them to lie in wait at my house. "This phone, it's the one you used to contact Molly, right?" I asked the thug leader. He lay on the floor, pinned by Jason, and glared at me silently. She wanted you to take nude photos of me to expose at the engagement party, right? I continued. He remained silent. Resistance is pointless. You broke into my house, drugged me, and intended physical harm. The evidence is clear. If you don't want to go to jail, follow my instructions. I held his phone up to him. Unlock it. The thug leader turned his head away, ignoring me. Fingerprint might work too. Jason tried to grab his hand. But the thug did something unexpected. He bit his thumb hard until it bled profusely. In short, he wouldn't share the password, and he ruined the fingerprint option. You can't pretend to be me to contact Molly. He shouted, mixed with both fierceness and pride. I glanced down at him and smiled after a moment. So, that's it. You're not just bribed, you really like her. Seeing his reaction, the thug leader turned his head away. I chuckled. So that's it. These thugs aren't too old. To them, Molly seems like a pure, innocent flower. Even if she gets them to do horrible things, it must be because she had no choice, right? Since that's the case, this should be easier. Taking out my phone, I played the recording I just made. Molly's voice rang out clearly. You're about to marry into a rich family, and what about me? I'm surrounded by a bunch of low-life thugs. If my future means marrying this kind of low-quality man, I might as well die. The voice was cold and merciless, yet it was undoubtedly Molly's. The thug leader's body shook violently. He looked up and stared at my phone, eyes bloodshot. Get it now? You like her so much, but she has never looked up to you. You're just a stepping stone to her. Once she climbs up to Jack, she'll throw you away. Now, think again. Do you want to work with me? Molly stood in the ceremony hall, looking at the guests in their fancy clothes. She swallowed, feeling a bit nervous for no apparent reason. She took out her phone and sent a message to Bobby. Is the video ready? Send it over. Soon, a file came through. Molly opened it but couldn't play it properly. What's going on? It won't open. Bobby replied quickly, it won't play on the phone, but you're going to connect it to the big screen anyway. The big screen will play it fine. Unease surfaced in Molly's heart, but she quickly suppressed it. Bobby was the leader of this group of thugs and her biggest backup plan. She had always promised Bobby that she would marry him after scamming money from these rich people, so Bobby did everything she asked. Bobby says it's fine, so it should be fine. Molly quietly approached the central control. At this moment, the big screen was displaying some past photos of Jack and Tina. No one was near the control computer, so Molly sat down and imported the video from her phone. Soon, all the guests would see Tina's scandalous video, and this engagement party was being broadcasted live. Countless people would witness this moment. Jack's family valued their reputation immensely. They would never allow Tina to marry into the family after this. Molly finished importing the video and pressed the play button hard. In the center of the hall, everyone turned around, drawn by the video suddenly playing on the big screen. Molly, wearing a mad grin, also looked at the screen. The next second, her smile froze. The video showed a scene at a coffee shop. Jack and Tina were talking when a disheveled girl burst in. She tossed a cup of coffee on Tina and then collapsed into Jack's arms. Jack tried to protect the girl and got into a fight with Tina. Guests started murmuring. Oh my God, what's going on? Who's that girl? She seems mentally unstable. Why is Jack protecting her? Could she be a mistress? Soon enough, some guests noticed Molly sitting by the control computer. Isn't that the girl from the video? Yeah, that's her. What is she doing here, playing this video? Is she trying to disrupt the engagement? Molly couldn't leave in time before Jack rushed over and grabbed her. Molly, what are you doing? Jack hissed, lowering his voice. Are you intentionally ruining my engagement? Molly's lips trembled. No way. The video that was supposed to play was the one Bobby sent. It's not my fault. Let me explain. Molly didn't know what else to do. She grabbed her phone in a panic. This video was sent to me by someone else. Maybe out of panic or to find a scapegoat, Molly dialed Bobby's number. A familiar ringtone came from behind. Molly turned around sharply. I stood there in an evening gown, holding up Bobby's phone. The next second, I walked up to the stage and took the microphone. Hello everyone, thank you for coming to my wedding. I'm sure you've just seen the video my cousin Molly played. It seems this three-person relationship is a bit too crowded, making me wonder if I should still get engaged. Jack yelled, Tina, what are you doing? I told you many times, I just pity Molly. I smiled slightly. Then next, I'd like to play a video too. I connected my phone to the big screen. Heavy breathing echoed in the hall. In the video, Molly was sitting on a hospital bed, looking up at Jack with teary eyes. Please, can you give me some salvation? Jack said nothing. He closed his eyes. Molly leaned in and kissed him. As if some boundary had been suddenly shattered, Jack pulled Molly into a deep kiss. In the video, you could clearly hear both of them breathing heavily and rapidly. After the video ended, the hall was as silent as a graveyard. Jack's face turned pale. Molly. She has a mental illness. I was just cooperating with the treatment. Before he could finish, Molly jumped up. No. I don't. Molly's strategy was clear. She only pretended to be ill at our house, living off others' sympathy. But today, with so many people watching, especially on a live broadcast, she could not admit to having a mental illness. Otherwise, they would never let Jack marry a mentally ill wife, and her future prospects for education or jobs would be ruined. Molly frantically pulled out her diagnosis report from her bag. Jack, look, I'm completely normal. Excellent. Someone interrupted her. Molly looked up in shock at me. I held the microphone, smiling calmly. Excellent. I'm glad you are completely normal. Otherwise, I would be really worried about you evading criminal responsibility under the guise of mental illness. As if to validate my words, the police burst in. 2 female officers approached and handcuffed Molly, taking her away. In the corner, my already shocked parents were now utterly flabbergasted. Tina, what's going on? I glanced aside as Tiffany, who came in with the police, walked up to me. Uncle, Aunt, Tina found me months ago. Suspecting Molly's father's death was not simple. My dad investigated and found many suspicions. For instance, Molly's father was an experienced driver, but on that day, he didn't wear a seatbelt, resulting in him being thrown out of the vehicle and into the river after hitting a bridge pillar. Molly also didn't report her father missing during the crucial 48 hours, making it nearly impossible to perform an autopsy when he was found. But our continuing investigation unearthed many clues. We found residual hallucinogens in Molly's father's thermos cup, and records of Molly purchasing such substances online months before her father's accident. Mom's legs buckled, but Dad caught her. We adopted an evil under our roof. I whispered. Uncle had repeatedly turned down our family's financial help to teach Molly self-respect and independence, not knowing that she already saw him as a stumbling block. Jack, as pale as a sheet, approached trembling. Tina, I was blind before. I was just too kind. I didn't look at him but said coldly, Jack, you were never blind. You were never kind. You are lustful, greedy, stupid, and unscrupulous. Taking Dad, Mom, and Tiffany with me, I walked away without looking back. Don't come after me anymore. You never deserved me. Epilogue. Later, the case of Molly killing her father was ruled in court and caused a huge uproar. Jack's family lost their honorable reputation from that live broadcast. The once glorious heir of J Group, Jack, became a scoundrel and a joke in everyone's eyes. J Group's business plummeted, and Jack's mental state gradually deteriorated. Eventually, his parents took him away from the city. I progressed smoothly in my studies after that, but the only strange part was that I never saw Victoria and Jason again. I messaged the Instagram account named Traceless, and Victoria rarely replied, only occasionally sending me a voice message. We have new jobs. Actually, I had a vague idea of what their jobs were. After all, Victoria had once added me and Jason to a small group chat. I noticed Jason's Instagram ID was Soul Chaser. What puzzled me was that they helped me a lot and never charged me a dime. What was their payment for their work? At the start of spring the following year, many of my questions finally got answered. Victoria sent me a text message. It had only 4 words: "Wanna eat barbecue?" Slices of fatty beef sprinkled with scallions were grilling on a copper plate, releasing a tempting aroma. Around it were mushrooms brushed with minced garlic, arranged in a circle around the edge of the grill, already sizzling and producing a bubbling sound. Victoria put a piece of kimchi in her mouth and chewed, finally done with work. Across from her, Jason was slicing a cheese-stuffed lava steak with scissors. "Well done, honey. Eat more meat." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Who's your honey? Get lost." She handed me a piece of grilled beef. "So, what do you know about us?" I focused on eating, pretending to be clueless. "What? About you two?" Victoria waved her hand. "No need to pretend. I know you're smart. Just say what you know." Since it had come to this, I felt bad pretending. Senior Jason is a soul chaser. His ability must be sealing souls. You're a traceless, your ability is reversing time. I should have died, but you two saved me. Victoria chewed her beef and stayed silent. Her silence was confirmation. I should have died. The river filled with red lotuses was the river Styx. One of you was at the bridge head, the other on the boat. At the bridge head was Jason, guiding souls back from the bridge. On the boat was Victoria, ferrying those souls and going upstream. Victoria listened in silence and then took a sip of cola. You're right, but there's a problem. The souls we save, we secretly help them so they can survive after rebirth. But normally, these souls shouldn't recognize us. After returning to the mortal realm, memories of the river Styx should be wiped. Both of them stared at me intently. Why do you remember? Me, how would I know? Their eyes didn't blink. No, seriously this time, I wasn't pretending. I raised both hands in surrender. I'm just a regular guy who was a pushover in my last life and still gets picked on in this one. Don't ask me about your divine matters, alright? Victoria glanced at Jason. She doesn't seem to be lying. Jason, she really doesn't know. Whatever, it's not important. Victoria waved her hand. In any case, you were saved by us, and the most important thing is... The most important thing is I still have this memory, I said. No, Victoria shook her head. The most important thing is, you're still rich. I'm planning to start a company. The budget from the underworld didn't come through, so I'm looking for a sponsor in the mortal world, Victoria said. You seem like a good fit. You guys keep eating, I'm out. Tina got up. Jason continued grilling meat, teasing Victoria slowly. Well, didn't manage to pull that off, did you? Victoria calmly said, don't worry, she'll be back. Those entangled by fate will always return to the web of karma. Sure enough, 3 minutes later. Tina lifted the curtain and sat back down. I didn't say I agreed. I'm just asking, what's your business? If I invest, can I get my money back? A month later. In a small alley, Tina looked disdainfully at the small storefront. A rustic sign outside read Wish Shop. I must be crazy, Tina muttered. I can't believe I invested in something like this. Victoria stood beside her, speaking gently. Don't worry, that little investment is nothing for you. Nothing? Tina exclaimed in frustration. You mean, if a customer pays $10, you'll grant a wish? Is the ability of Traceless and Soul Chaser so cheap? What are you talking about? Victoria said, confused. $10 is the price to make a wish, meaning a customer can write their wish on paper. As for granting it, that's another price. By the way, let me introduce, I'm the manager, Jason is the deputy manager. Tina scoffed, a 2-person operation? You don't even have any employees. Victoria pointed at Tina, you, employee. Tina, wait a minute. I'm the boss, right? Why did I become an employee? Victoria. Don't think I won't stand up to you just because you're my senior. Tina, a force to be reckoned with, found herself powerless against Victoria. She huffed and left the store. Just as she stepped outside, she bumped into a pale-faced girl. "Excuse me, is this where you can make wishes?" the girl asked timidly. Tina paused for a second, then showed a warm smile. Yes, please come in." Damn, I really became an employee. After the girl went in, Tina stood outside, wiping sweat from her forehead in frustration. But this job, working for deities and witnessing human joy and sorrow, didn't sound too bad. After all, the summer break was long. It's time to welcome new stories.